Right, on today's video, we're going to be talking about Longlegs, the new film by Perkins starring Nicolas Cage and Michael Monroe. Now, off the bat, I am going to talk pretty openly about this film, so I might go into spoilers. You probably do need to watch the film, because the reason I want to make a video is because I want to talk about this film because it's getting rave reviews, and for whatever reason, I didn't see it as much as everybody else seems to, which is actually why I've seen the film twice. I saw it on Friday when it first came out, and as a first viewer, man, that was really annoying. That was such a letdown. But I did feel like I missed something, and not just purely because of the hype, because there's certain things I do like about this film, which I will talk about. But I just felt like maybe seeing specifically the Nicolas Cage performance, knowing what to go into, would have benefited. And the reason I think that is because off the bat, for once, the trailer showed you nothing, and that kind of backfired for me, because I was expecting like Silence of the Lambs 7, which for the most part you do get, but also I was expecting the creepiness of the Poughkeepsie tapes, and it's partly because of that fucking ridiculous scariest film ever made, fucking scariest film of the year, and all the bollocks that goes on posters, and for whatever reason I fell for it this time, and I don't know why, and it fucking wound me up that I fell for it, but I was expecting that to be the case. And not only because of that, because the trailer purposely keeps Nick Cage out of the trailer, so you don't see him whatsoever. So I was expecting a really creepy villain. With the lack of him being shown in the trailer and the quotes going on pictures and all the reviews coming out of how creepy this film actually is, that's what I was expecting. I was expecting like Poughkeepsie tapes level of creepiness, and it just isn't that, man. And the actual truth of the matter is, they kept Nicolas Cage out of it because he looks ridiculous in the film, and that's what they were hiding. And I was just hoping for a non-Nick Cage performance. And for once, the marketing actually fucked me over. I would have liked to have seen Nicolas Cage once or twice in the film, just so I could be prepared. And it might have tempered my expectations a little bit, because yeah, going into that screening on Friday, I was like, this is going to be the film of the year. I was so stoked. So that's on me, obviously. But also, I don't know why I thought Nicolas Cage could pull off such a performance, because we all know, we've seen Nicolas Cage films, we know what Nick Cage does, and it's one gear. That's what he's got. If you're into it, he does it very well. Now, I'm not a person who's massively into the Nick Cage resurgence. I like Renfield. I didn't see Willy's Wonderland, and I didn't see Colour Out of Space. I did watch Mandy. That was fine. But Mandy's fine because it's a lot of atmosphere that drives the film. It's not like dialogue heavy. Nick Cage doesn't get really too much chance to be Nick Cage on like 10 out of 10 Nick Cage, which is what he is, isn't he? He's just over the top. And yeah, I was just under the impression that it was going to be a really creepy film, and first viewing was rough, man. However, I did go back and watch it because I did think there was something there that I missed. And I think that's what it was. My expectations were way too high, and I needed to temper them, or at least know what I was going into. So I went back and watched it, and I'll talk about the positives of the film first. And the positives are the way it's shot, and the atmosphere in the film is absolutely incredible. And it's in part 1, part 2, and part 3. So like, you get title cards every half an hour, 40 minutes or whatever. And part 1, the first act of this film, is absolutely phenomenal. I was able to appreciate it because I knew exactly what I was going into. So it took a second watch for me to get any appreciation out of it. But that's part 1 of this film. It's so bleak and depressing, and it's a massive slow burn as well. But it's just got like a depressing atmosphere. Like, it really has. Like, it reminds me of like Seven when they're in the city, because it's just grey and bleak, and Michael Monroe's performance is really subdued, and obviously she's dealt with a lot of trauma, so she's got no energy, and the score doesn't help her out bringing any energy whatsoever. It's quite a drony industrial score, really, so that doesn't really help drive the film with energy. It just makes it bleak and depressing, and I really, really like that. In part 1 of that film, I really got so much out of that. The Silence of the Lambs aspect, like the FBI chasing the serial killer, like obviously Seven's that as well, but I think this film wears them two influences on its sleeve, and it absolutely should, because they are like the gold standard of these films. That's exactly what you should be aspiring to make if you're making this type of film. So I completely get it. It's not a criticism. In fact, it's obviously one of the positives. I loved how it felt. Like, it was just bleak and grim, and that's exactly what I want out of these films. So part 1 of that film was fantastic. Part two is where it starts losing me a little bit, and I only say that because part two is when Nick Cage comes into it, and I've got to say that's the biggest mistake this film made for me, and it is only for me because this film is getting rave reviews and Nick Cage as Longlegs is getting rave reviews, so I am not in the majority. I'm quite clearly in the minority with this one, but I just don't think he's capable of a creepier performance, and I think he shows that every time he comes on screen, because every time he comes on screen, no matter how tense it was before he gets there, he makes it fucking stupid. Like, he just does, because he's Nick Cage, and that's what he does, and that's fine. And that's probably on me for not expecting a Nick Cage performance, but I just wasn't. I just weren't. And I was hoping that because I knew what I was getting into, his performance would land a little bit more as well. I was hoping I wouldn't find it so comical. And like I say, I've been to 2 showings, and both times, literally every single time he come on screen, the whole audience were laughing. And it wasn't creepy, man. And I don't know where this creepiness is coming from, because that's not what I got out of it. And in both showings I've been to, it's not what the cinema audience I was with got out of it either. And it's just such a shame, man, because I think if they would have got the casting of the villain right, I think this film would have been so much better. One of the things that isn't really too good about the film, though, is I personally found it very easy to telegraph which way the twists and turns were going, and that's not always a problem with films, but they set the end of the film up as a big moment that you're meant to be shocked, and the reality of it is it's quite easy to telegraph. So the big moment, the big reveal at the end, wasn't that shocking. It didn't really land whatsoever. It was like I say, it was very easy to telegraph, so that wasn't the best. So even Nick Cage aside, it's still got its problems, but like I say, if they would have nailed the villain casting much better, I think I probably would have been more forgiving of the twists and turns being telegraphed, because of the creepy scenes that you would have got with a better, more capable actor. And that's just how I found it. Don't get me wrong, if you're okay with the Nick Cage part, I can see why this film would land, and I can see why you'd love this film, because like I say, atmosphere, it's there, fucking performances are there, so I can see why you would like it. But yeah, for me, sadly, it just didn't hit the way it needed to, and it's such a fucking shame, because I kind of wished he didn't. Well, not kind of. I fully wished he didn't cast Nick Cage in this, and was just as an unknown creepy actor going more along the lines of Buffalo Bill, because with the atmosphere before them scenes and an actual creepy scene after it, I could see me feeling very, very different about this film, and it's so frustrating, man. But yeah, I'd love to know what you thought. So if you want to drop in the comments if you've seen it, what you thought of it. Because yeah, man, like I say, this is pretty much the biggest film of the year, isn't it? Let's be honest. First time round, I give it 2 stars. I've bumped it up to a 3-star. I think it's a 3-star film. So it's better than average, because there is enough there for me. But yeah, it was quite disappointing the first view. And like, thanks one for checking the video out. If you did enjoy it, like it, subscribe to the channel, share it around. That'd be massively appreciated. And I'll see you in the next one. Nice one.